Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my world of Instagram conversations once again, guys. As you all know, I've been posting a lot about my tonight's guest. He is currently living in the US, but he's originally from Scotland and he was born in Wales. Apart from that, he has written two books, and there are 7 lessons of overcoming your past self and 7 lessons on the myths of marriage. So, guys, do check those out. The books are amazing. His academic background is in nutrition and psychology. He is a certified NLP and a CBT. He is also trained from the Garden Institute in Seattle, USA, and is still currently working. Actually, not working, he has a professional study going on with the same institute. Having said that, my guest is also married to Yasmin Muhid. For those of you who do not know, she is a renowned international female Muslim speaker. Having done his introduction, I would want to bring him on and we will take our conversation from there. Thank you so much for all of you for coming in. I think this is a very big platform for us to learn a lot, being Muslims especially. Let's bring him on, guys. And how is everyone doing today? Okay, I am just going to be connecting with him and we will take it from there. Okay, guys. There we go. Just bringing him in. And we're just connecting and we'll take it from there. I hope you all are fine. I am super excited. I have been really looking forward to this session. I think a lot of you can benefit from it. I have been following him and I've learned so much through just his posts. And there he is. Let's bring him in, guys. Guys, we're just connecting. There we go. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. How are you?
How are you? I'm good. How about yourself?
Good, alhamdulillah. Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you. Guys, if you can hear us, if you can't hear us, just let us know. We are all set to start.
Okay, Bismillah.
Okay, so my first question to you is, why did you choose this profession? What inspired you to come in this field?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me on, and assalamu alaikum to all the folks that are sort of like coming on to watch. Really, the reality is I've always been interested in service-based activity from a very young age, and so whether that's my background in police work, whether it was rescue work, ocean rescue work, to volunteering within the community and going abroad and volunteering. The reality is I've just been geared always towards helping and service. So this was like a natural sort of a progression for me to go on to helping folks through counselling, therapy, coaching, etc.
Okay, wonderful. So let me ask you my first question, my real first question.
Sure. Okay.
So what are the most common issues, complaints that you have to address in marriage, both male and female sides?
Okay, I know this is a predominantly Pakistan-based audience that you have. So would you like me to touch upon it from that perspective, from clients I have from the sort of the Indo-Pak background? Okay, I mean, I guess some of the most common complaints will be lack of communication, lack of emotional understanding, especially when, like, from a woman's perspective, she'll be like, "Look, my husband's just emotionally not available. He has, and when it comes to emotional intelligence, there's just nothing there." So that's a common complaint that I get. And then again, from the husband side, it's a lot regarding like intimacy issues. There's then generally, I mean, a big one is family issues, the family dynamic, the sort of like toxic environment of like the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law sort of dynamic. These are big issues.
Right, right. So how do you address them, and what do you tell them with, I know what you're saying is all correct, and these are the typical issues we have here. So how do you address them when they come forward to you?
Um, Look, it's a complicated situation because obviously it's a completely different culture. So my clients from Pakistan, for instance, whether that's Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, I know you're based in Lahore, aren't you? I mean, a lot.
Yes.
It's very different from the Desi community here in the West. Like for instance, for the United Kingdom or the USA, it's just a very different dynamic because of the cultural
Mm,
background and what's happening there. But really, to touch upon that, you have to understand that there's deep-rooted issues within Pakistan that we have to sort of look
mm,
at, and that's something that, inshallah, later on I can discuss. Um, but my advice, well, the advice I give to clients really depends on what they're coming to me about. So if it's that their husband has or their wife has narcissistic personality disorder, then I'll sit down and discuss that with them. If it's a mother-in-law issue, then we'll have to. So it's a case-by-case situation, and
mm,
obviously, I know we are very short in time. So for me to go into
mm-hmm.
the dynamics of what I'm saying, it would literally take up the entire live session that we have today.
Right, right. I totally understand that. So tell me, what are the problems basically that you see, that are prevalent in the Pakistan community?
I think one of the things that I've realized over the years is that there's some fundamental, I mean, overall, Pakistan is an amazing country. I have family in Pakistan, in Lahore, and I have absolutely amazing memories of going back during my youth. And even, I mean, 5, 6 years ago was the last time I was there, but I have fond memories of whenever I go back to Pakistan. Family, relatives, I mean, the culture, it's all fantastic. But there are some
Mm,
key elements within the Pakistani culture that I feel have become very toxic to having sustained, healthy relationships. And one of them is the mother-in-law situation, the mother-in-law daughter-in-law situation. That's a massive one. The other issue is um, this taboo and this cultural practice within Pakistan of not having a healthy dynamic about talking about intimacy within family structures. I was actually just reading, I was looking and doing some research, and I knew about this statistic quite a while ago, but I just wanted to recheck it. And one of the biggest issues that's happening, especially with the youth in Pakistan, is that there's a huge problem with pornography. And a lot of complaints that I'm getting from clients is regarding individuals who are now married, but they're having problems in intimacy. And when you sort of like do a timeline, you sort of investigate what's happening, you realize that a lot of the time there's been sexual abuse, and for that reason that they've closed up. And then when you start investigating and you start reading into reports and you start looking at facts and statistics, you realize that for a long time now, Pakistan has been literally number one on the list for porn sites, and for Google searches on sex and other things like that. So what's happening now is, and it's not just we're talking about pornography here, we're talking about, like, there's levels of pornography. We're talking about searches of the most vile stuff that you can get, fetishes, etc. So what's happening now is that you have a country who's got the largest amount of hits on these sites within the youth. And why is that happening? Because there's an unhealthy dynamic happening within the country when it comes to families being open and discussing intimacy and relationships in a healthy manner. So I'll give you an example. A lot of clients come to me and they say to me that I've actually never experienced my mother and father showing love and affection. And I'll have others who are saying to me, I've grown up my entire life with my parents and I've never actually seen them sleep in the same room. They sleep in opposite rooms because intimacy and showing affection and love. I'm not trying to be stereotypical here. Obviously, there are families that are very loving, and the husbands and wives are mashallah got fantastic compatibility. They have a beautiful relationship. But I'm seeing a lot of cases come through to me and other colleagues of mine who are either psychotherapists or they're relationships coaches or psychiatrists, and you start to hear this pattern coming through, which is a lot of people have a very unhealthy attachment to talking and expressing about their inner emotions, talking about love, expressing love in a healthy way, relationships. It's almost like swept under the carpet. And intimacy, and I mean, I have couples that have come to me and said that they were not allowed to even mention that they were interested in someone for marriage in university or someone, because for them they'll be beaten up. It's almost like it's such a sort of like almost like suppressed community that now what's happening is you're getting a plethora of people who do not know how to express their emotions. They do not know how to talk about relationships or intimacy in a healthy manner from a faith-based perspective. And also within their nuclear family, they don't know how to approach their fathers. The daughters don't know how to approach their mothers. And then what ends up happening is that the youth, especially like the new youth who are so well connected and integrated on social media, they can access all sorts online within seconds. And so now what's happening is that there's a really unhealthy education coming regarding these topics: how to be with a husband and wife, what does it mean, what is intimacy, they're getting all this information from sites that are actually satanic almost. I mean, it's nothing else, it's a satanic business. And this is what's happening, and abuse now. How's it all linked? Because I was speaking to one of my friends who's a psychotherapist, and he was saying to me, like, his clients, and what he's realized is that there's a lot of this abuse, like sexual abuse, happening within khandans, within families. But what they end up doing is they will hush it. So if, for instance, someone has been abused sexually by a cousin or by an uncle or or a family friend, what will happen is that once that child or young adult talks about it, they'll be like, oh, emotional, like, don't say anything. Like, don't, and like sweep it under the carpet. What are they going to think? So instead of actually embracing that person that's being abused and discussing it and then taking it to the higher level within family and authorities, what people do is they hush everything. And so this is why you're getting, and because of this unhealthy dynamic about talking about intimacy and relationships and bonding, and what ends up happening is that they're getting it from these sites, like I mentioned, and now because they can't fulfill these needs and discuss about it in a healthy manner or in a halal manner, what's happening now is people are going off and transgressing bounds. And this is a huge issue that I've seen. And another issue, obviously, is a mother-in-law dynamic that I mentioned. That's something that's toxic, and I mean, I can discuss that later on if you want, a different point, if you want to ask something else just now.
Yes, so you've addressed the issue, and I totally agree with you on that. But just a few tips. What would you recommend? How can we, as a society and as a culture, change this?
I think the first thing that we have to do, inshallah, is start to have a clear understanding and not a warped, very jaded perspective of faith and religion. I think Pakistan has some of the most brilliant minds, alhamdulillah, and the amount of potential in Pakistan is phenomenal. Um, but unfortunately, because of the system, because of the way things happen, um, a lot of that is sort of like used and abused. That brilliance is used and abused, and it's almost like a survival mentality. So people can't really rise to their potential, whether it's through corruption, whether it's through family politics, and there's so many things involved. But at the end of the day, what we really need to do is have a healthy understanding of religion, not something that's contaminated with Hinduistic culture and beliefs. Because a lot of Pakistan issues in Pakistan is that it's a morphosis of other practices, especially the Indian Hinduistic sort of like practices. It gets absorbed in, and then people call that religion. They call that Islam, whereas it's not. And this is where a lot of the problems are coming, and a lot of the identity crisis is coming, is because people sometimes say, I don't want anything to do with religion if this is what it teaches and this is what it means. But a lot of the time, it's actually not what our religion teaches. So, like in Pakistan, for instance, I hear so many times people saying, like, if you some like the divorce issue. Let's just talk about divorce, for instance.
Yes,
Divorce
please.
is something that's halal. It's allowed. There's a reason that it's halal, but people use fabricated hadith, and they will use fabricated hadith to sort of like put people into a position of and keeping them subdued when it comes to the topic of divorce. Whereas if two people have tried everything and they're just not compatible, or there's some form of abuse, or there's some sort of mental health issue, whether it's bipolar or there's some other form of disorder, and instead of talking about it in a healthy dynamic and parting in an amicable way, what people do is that for decades they will be told to suppress everything, and don't dare go down that route of divorce. Don't dare even think about it, because if you do, that's the most hated of the action by Allah. It's the most. But the reality is that, I mean, that's dhulam as well. We need to understand when people are being abused, and there's abusive relationships, there's narcissistic personality disorder within couples, there's other mental health issues, or there's just plain right abuse, physical abuse. Then this is when a couple have the right to get other members of their family involved, the community involved, people of scholastic position involved, to help rectify the situation. And if they cannot be rectified, then it's best for them to part amicably. But that culture is not there, unfortunately. It's just not there. And what ends up happening is, and I hear so many cases that actually breaks my heart of sisters are having to sort of like, and my wife, she's always getting messages from people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, saying like, I'm suicidal because my husband is a drug addict, and he's a porn addict, and he's going to brothels, and he's doing this and he's doing that, and he has no care for me, and he's not fulfilling any of my rights. But she's been in that situation for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's like she comes to the point of saying it's better for me to give up on life. Do you understand? It's sad, because it's like it shouldn't come to that. The community should be vibrant and mature enough to be able to have a discussion in an amicable way with other members of the family, with community imams, people of knowledge, and be able to find hal and rastas and ways out of that. But unfortunately, it's looked down upon, and it's not just looked down upon; it's actually completely discouraged, which is so unfortunate, because that's not where we should be in this. I mean, we're in 2020 now. I mean, you can understand these things maybe 100 years ago, but not with the plethora of knowledge at our fingertips now, with access to scholars and access to knowledge, both academic, Western academic knowledge and Islamic knowledge. I mean, these things really shouldn't be happening. And unfortunately, it's a cultural practice. A lot of this is to do with deep rooted cultural practices which have been mixed with other cultures, but it's not from Islam.
Right, right. And you've explained it so well. I'll just like to add that I was myself living in US for 7 years, and in those seven
Okay.
years I'd gone. So 7 years completely living in US, and all of a sudden I just came back. It was, I'm not lying, it was a cultural shock because I thought it had changed, and I heard people tell me, my friends and stuff, no, it's staying change, people are open, divorce is not looked down upon, you'll be fine, don't worry. So I came with a very open mind that, oh, Pakistan has changed, it's going to be really. But when I came here, it's just talk. It's just talk. They say we're okay with somebody getting divorced, but it's not really okay. And I feel that our elder generation, they've become so rigid in their approach and their mindset that you can't really convince them. So if you want to have an open dialogue with them, they're like, oh, you're too exposed to the West, or you following the wrong Islam or this. Or if you quote like a scholar, they're like, he's not right. Who are you following? You need to check his credentials or something. Like, he's got, you can see he's got 10, 20 years of study in religion. So
Yeah.
you can't, I feel, for me, my personal experience is that I cannot have an open conversation with my elders in a way where they can disagree, that's totally fine, but they would respect my opinion that, okay, if you hold that, even if they disagree, I think the best thing, I think, would be, just pray, whoever is right, Allah will guide us, but having these fights and saying that this and you that, and like you said, you make religion so frustrating, like, oh my God is like that. No, you just want to push
Mm.
religion away. And when I was living in US and I learned certain things in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is all West. What is West done to our religion? Because I was coming from the mindset from Pakistan. And to adjust to that, because I got exposed, I learned so much, going through a whole
Mm.
cycle of
Yeah.
breaking of what I was brought up believing, because it
Yeah.
had got nothing to do with religion. I
Yeah.
totally agree with what you say, and it totally resonates exactly with the
Okay.
situation that's going on right now in Pakistan. Now, since we are talking about divorce, I want you to highlight when you said abuse, what is your take on verbal abuse? For children, do you think it is okay and healthy for them to be in an environment where it's an unhealthy environment, where like it's a broken kind of marriage? Do you think that a
Mm.
healthy way to approach the man kids are concerned, or would you say no, the kids would be better off if the parents divorced?
So, are you talking about a toxic relationship? Are you asking about a toxic
Yes,
relationship?
yes.
Okay, if there's a toxic relationship and the husband and wife have tried everything to make amends, but it's not happening, and there's chronic behavior that's causing harm either to whichever spouse, because or is causing indirect harm to the children, then I believe that, according to a lot of studies and specialists within the field of child psychology, there's a plethora of reports out there now in studies that clearly show that being children being raised in a toxic relationship where they are watching their parents sort of hate each other to a point of whether there's physical abuse, whether there's constant mental abuse and torture, and or one of the parents is coming in um, drunk or always coming in high on drugs, etc., etc. I mean, the list goes on and on. But if there's a complete breakdown of that family, it's far better for the husband and wife to part, because the long-term damage that that does to children, it's all there. There's this. You just have to just jump into Google and type in, ask for reports on cases of children that have grown up in abusive homes or toxic environments, and look at what happens. I mean, in fact, I've got something just here that I was actually reading just before the live session, and it's headed, what are the effects of a dysfunctional family on a child? And I'll just read a few sentences just to sort of like reiterate my point here. Growing up in a dysfunctional family can largely have negative effects on the children in the family. Mistrust, anxiety, despise, and other negative emotions lead to a very insecure adult. Certain common behavioral patterns can be observed in people who come from a dysfunctional family. And this is just the beginning of a very large report on the psychological damages done to children that are brought up in that environment. And one of the things I can say just now, one of the reasons that we have so many problems in, unfortunately, our communities is because a lot of children, I mean, physical abuse and all that is that's one extreme, but just even the extreme of a child growing up in a home or children growing up in a home not being able to be given tarbiyah and being able to observe love and compassion and learn the dynamic of a healthy, loving relationship by watching their mothers and fathers. Just that not being there causes so much harm, and it causes a ripple effect because then the child grows up not knowing how to be with their husband or with their wife because they've grown up watching a very unhealthy dynamic where the husband and wife will be in separate rooms. It's all about just cooking and cleaning and making sure everything's done at a certain time, a certain way. And then when it comes to even family time, the husband will be sitting, the wife will be sitting at a distance, no holding hands, no hugs, no embraces, no kisses, nothing. It's just very sort of like stoic, like this is the way we are. We don't show any forms of, we don't express feelings and emotions. Just that element. I mean, putting child abuse and was abusive homes when it comes to husbands and wives being physically abusive to each other. All of that's in one department. Just not showing love causes a plethora of issues with the child growing up and to understand how to express emotions and how to be a healthy how to be in a healthy family and how to be with their partner. I think you're frozen. I think you're sorry, you're frozen there for a second.
Okay, is it okay?
Yes, okay now. It's okay.
Yeah. Yes. So
Um,
what I gathered from what all you're saying, that children would be better off in such environments. It's better off for the parents to divorce because the kids can take it better and
it's bet
grow better.
yeah. Yeah, it's basically mentally health. It's better for their mental health and psychological health for them to see that the mother and the father are both happy in their own new life and then be constantly for 20, 30, 40 years seeing the mother and father hate each other, fight, just not just verbally, but even physically at times, and then constant cursing, degrading, criticizing, and then obviously everything else that comes with that. It's better for the husband and wife to realize that they're not compatible, that they're not in a healthy dynamic, and it's better for them to part so that the child grows up saying, oh, mama's happy now. She's at ease. She's at peace. Or papa's happy now. He's found someone else. And they're both happy. They found a partner that they're compatible with, that they're happy with. It's better for a child to have that and know that their mother and father's happy than for 20, 30 years, 40 years, see them at each other's throats. It's just far better for their mental health.
Right, right. Okay, now moving on. What advice would you give to single women and men out there currently?
Um, my best advice, I guess, just now in the short time that we have would just be this: be very careful during the courting stage. Be extremely careful. The amount of problems that are being caused, especially in our culture back home in Pakistan, where it's already very sort of like taboo and sort of like everything's swept under the carpet. So what ends up happening is a lot of individuals, when they find someone, because they've not had a healthy upbringing in being able to discuss their emotions, their feelings, and what their likes and dislikes are in a partner, what ends up happening is that the first person that comes to them, whether that's in college or university or something like that, what ends up happening is that they actually fall in love. They fall head over heels and they become not just emotionally attached, but Mela, forgive us, what ends up happening is that all transgression, like all boundaries are broken. And so it becomes fully fledged sort of like boyfriend, girlfriend situation. And then what ends up happening is that in itself causes you to, once you're into that state, once you've fallen into love and you're like, this is the one, this is the only person, then it becomes very difficult for you to actually take a step back, analyze the situation, and actually look at compatibility, religiosity, other family dynamics, to be able to look at him or her in a sort of like in an empowered way where you're sort of like asking questions in a way to actually deeply find out about each other. But once you're in love and you've got a bonded and have a very deep emotional attachment, thinking this is the one, then all red flags go out the window. Even if there's a plethora of red flags, you start deluding yourself into believing that no, you can fix that one, or this is okay. I mean, I know people from Pakistan that are clients, and they're now sort of like discussing ways of parting because they rushed into it. They were girlfriend, boyfriend behind the scenes, but then they somehow managed to get both sides of the family to agree, even though they were disagreeing in the beginning, but to agree, because either they'll twist their family's arm and say, we'll run away, or we'll do this, we'll do that. But they'll twist arms, and then what to do is that then when they get married, a few months down the line, a year down the line, they realize, actually, we're complete opposites. And all it was a rush of emotional lust and attachment. Whereas the practical elements of who he is, what she is, what background, what personality, all of these things go out the window, because once you start courting and you start to sort of like leave the boundaries, because our faith has beautiful boundaries. And if we stick within them boundaries, I mean, I'm born and raised in the West. My grandparents are from India. My mother was raised in Scotland when she was like a baby. So, I mean, I've got the best of both worlds. So I can see from my perspective, being raised in the West as a Pakistani Muslim, you understand, heritage.
Yes, yes.
But then I can see from people from over there, and then the problem now is like a lot of folks think that living the lifestyle that they do in the West is the way forward. Like that's the way things should be done. Like it should be very Hollywood, Bollywood. It's not. The reality is
Sadly.
that it shouldn't be Hollywood and Bollywood. It should be like following faith-based principles, because that'll keep you safe, and it'll keep you safe from a lot of heartbreak and heartache in the future. So the courting is a very dangerous stage. You have to be very careful and definitely get families involved. If you're interested in someone, have the courage to be able to just sit there and have an open discussion with family members and say, look, this is the situation and I'm interested in this person, and can we take this forward? And can we do this in a way where we can get both families involved, rather than doing everything chup chup karke behind the scene? It causes it just causes a plethora of issues down the line.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree with you on that. Now, I want you as well to advise newlywed couples who just gotten married. What would you want to say to them?
Mubarak on getting married, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your marriages, whoever you are. But the most important ingredient that I would give to newlywed couples is the first 6 months to a year, you'll be floating, but you need to be able to realize that floating can be actually something that becomes intertwined and a reality for the rest of your marital life. And the way that happens is by actually investing in your marriages, studying about relationship science, understanding love languages, understanding what does it mean, understanding each other's inner worlds, your dynamics, using tools and strategies that relationship experts around the world have coined and brought into the open for people to be able to research in the form of documents, in the form of books, in the form of videos and presentations. There's a plethora of TED Talks. There's people like myself who are relationship coaches, experts. They are therapists, psychotherapists. There's an abundance of tools out there now. Use them, watch them together, learn about each other's dynamic, and never ever shy away from working on love and on being a healthy dynamic couple. And whatever happens, do not, when the children come into the scene, make your entire existence about the children. If you make your entire existence about the children, and you as a wife take hold of the husband and you start doing tawaf for 20, 30 years round the children, and the children are your focal point in life, then what happens is that when they get married and they leave the house, you will both be sitting there as a couple looking at each other saying, I don't even know who you are. Do you understand? So invest in your marriages, invest in going out together, invest in solid quality time together. Whether you've been married a year, 10 years, 20 years, invest in going out together, invest in going on trips together with the children and sometimes without the children. Just read, educate yourselves, and definitely stick close to something which I really do want to discuss later on today, to protecting your marriage from ayn, hasad, like basically from the evil eye, from jealousy, and from, unfortunately, there's so many of these issues. And I'm not one to say that everything is black magic, but there is a reality that there is a dark art out there. There's a darkness out there that people tap into to use against people. And there's unfortunately a lot of this in Indian, so Indo-Pak communities. There's a lot of this. And so protect your marriages. Do not show everyone your blessings. Like when you're getting married or whenever your children, at each stage of your child's life, plastering them all over social media. Whenever you go out, even you go out just for an ice cream together, there's like 55,000 photos going up through Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat of you and your husband sitting there having ice cream together. It's not healthy. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us and advised us to be discreet with your blessings. Why? Because those that are being blessed are envied. It's a reality. People envy that. And people are in so many different circumstances. People are out there, you're married and you're happily married, and you're posting images of your children, you're going out with your husband and you're doing this, you're dressed in your finest at wedding occasions, parties, then you're plastering all of that over social media. Then you wonder why it is that your marriages are being disrupted, why it is that, because there's a plethora of, because there's people out there that aren't married, who've been waiting to be married for years. Some of them are just coming out of a disastrous marriage and they're divorced, and then they're seeing all of this on there, and then they start to have this. It's a human feeling, it's a human reaction to feel envious or slightly jealous. And then some people have been trying to have children for years and they can't have children. But then all of a sudden you're plastering all your blessings of, my child now has become a hafiz, my child now has done this, my child now is wearing this shalwar kameez in this way, look at it. I mean, this is where people don't realize that they're not following the prophetic advice and guidance to protect your marriages. And this is something that I really do want to talk about before the end of this, is regarding athkar and a spiritual sort of like formula to be able to keep ourselves safe as couples.
Yes, please.
I can talk about that later if you want to go on about some of your other questions.
No, I would prefer that. Yeah, I mean, I would rather touch it right now since we're already going with the flow.
Sure. Okay, if you want to, because I know you have a lot of
Yes.
questions. I'm really trying to get through as
Yes.
many as I can before the
Right.
time, and please do keep an eye on it. I know Instagram
Yes,
cuts
I
off
am.
automatically
Yes.
after an hour, yeah.
Yes.
So we'll hopefully
Yes.
try to wrap up within an hour. Okay, look, at the end of the day, if you take away anything from this, coming from a faith-based perspective, if you take anything away from this regarding relationships, like faith versus culture, do this. Okay. If you're sitting there and wherever you are in the world watching this, then please, husband and wife should get into a routine of doing their daily afkar. And if you all have a pen and a paper, or if you want to bring out your iPads or you want to take notes, then please, I'm going to give you a prescription. This is something that my wife gives a lot whenever she's traveling the world and she's speaking to sisters all over the world. She gives this, and this prescription is it's actually such a prophetic Quranic prescription, and it's something that's actually a lost art. People do not do it nowadays, and it needs to be revived within the ummah for protection and to be able to keep your family sanctified and safe. And so basically, it's like this. Number one, if you can download or get a book called Fortress of a Muslim, it's in Arabic, it's Hisn al Muslim. It's basically in English, Fortress of a Muslim. There's a book form, or you can also nowadays, mashallah, with the advancement of apps and everything, it's already been made into an amazing app called My Dua. And there's many other apps like that, but I recommend My Dua. It's one I've been using for years now. And it's MYDUAA. So MYDUA. And if you download that on your beauty about this app is that it's
Come back. I don't know. This time I didn't do anything. The connection just dropped on its own. I don't know what happened. Uh, I think we would just wrap up because I think we've taken more than the expected time. So let's bring him in and wrap up with him. Just bringing him back and I don't know what I didn't touch anything this time.
I don't know. But anyway, it's ironic whenever you're talking about these topics, reception seems to go off. Okay, so look, just to quickly wrap
Yes,
up. I know
please.
time is
Yes.
getting on. So
Yes.
really, on the whole, the reality is like we as Muslims, as people of faith, we should understand that yes, there are hidden arts. There are forms out there. There is black magic, there is ayn, there is hasad. We need to understand that and accept it. But we also need to understand that there could be mental health issues. Someone could be bipolar. They could have some sort of, do you understand, mental health issue like
Right.
ADHD. They could be ADD. I mean, there's so many things that could be in play. So the reality is, like, not everything is black magic. We do, like what I said earlier on, we do our part. We do our prescription. We do Athkar in the morning. We do our Ayatul Kursi. We do Ruqya on ourselves and our family. And we do our part as Muslims or people of faith to keep ourselves and our families protected. But to make this point, that for individuals, especially in our communities, they need to understand that going to people that do witchcraft, I mean, let me just quickly explain. I did a conference many years ago. It was actually one of the first of its kind when I used to stay in Scotland. It was many years ago. And it was basically, I don't usually do these sort of things, but I just did it that once just to tackle this issue. So, like, the entire theme was gin and black magic. And this was so long ago, but one of the biggest lessons that I learned from that is that, look, you do get people within the community that are practicing these arts, which is forbidden. Islamically, anyone that goes to a magician or does these things in that realm, like wants to get involved with magic or seeks out the help from a magician, then it's actually it's forbidden in our faith. And if you're to die upon that state, not asking for repentance from Allah, it's not looking good for you, because it's, according to some of the statements in the classical text, the scent of paradise is not for you. You're not even allowed the scent of paradise, i.e., you're going to be nowhere near paradise. Where does that mean? You're going to be in hellfire. That's what our faith says for people that practice witchcraft and do it. So now the reality is that from what I gained from doing that conference was that it's a business. We got so many like ta'wees and stuff handed into us that we actually got 436 ta'wees by the end of that. And each one of them was cut open. They were logged with photos. We did a log, and the people of the scholars that were there read everything and this basically explained what was happening. So there was probably 90% of the ta'wees that we got were phony. They were duds. There was nothing in them. And so what happened was people were spending £100, $1,000, £500 on making these ta'wees to protect themselves, to protect their children, their family. Or my daughter's not getting married, so please, here's £1,000. Can you make me something? Then they wear it for the rest of their lives. 90% of it is fake. It's just a business. When they cut them open, they were dud, they were phony. But there was 10% that was actually real. It was witchcraft. And so they had ayat of Quran twisted and written in a way with the names of Allah inverted, names of jinn written. They were written like one of the scholars was saying that it was written with feces and blood and stuff like that. So that was witchcraft. But what happens is that we need to understand that this is forbidden. And people that go down that line and they go to people like, there's a lot of people that will go to folks, they'll give them a lot of money and they'll give them these things in return. But the reality is that these folks have put their trust in these things to wear around the neck or to put into the corners of your room. That's the protection, is doing it the authentic way, like Ruqya, the authentic way, just Quranic recital. And doing your adhkar and protection du'as. If anyone, and I'll end on this, if anyone you go to or your family members go to someone because they have a problem in their house, their daughter's not having a child, their son is not getting married, there's no wealth, there's no this, turn to Allah. Ask Allah by His names and His attributes. Turn to Him in the depth of the night at tahajjud and fall into your sujood and ask Allah, the one who gives. But if you go to someone and they say to you, give me an item of their clothing, have you got a piece of their DNA, a strand of their hair, or a piece of their clothing? Or if you can purchase some meat and then take that meat and bury it at a certain place with his clothing, but first give it to me. These people, even if they look like sheikhs, even if they have long beards and they're wearing a puggery and they're looking like they're scholars, run away from them because they're actually magicians. Anyone that asks you for any clothing, what's your mother's name? What's their grandparents' name? Stay away from them. They're actually sorcerers. And these people have a punishment with Allah that Allah will deal with them in this life and in the akhirah. So look, for families that are involved, are finding a lot of problems and mushkalat and issues in their families and their khandans, and they need help, increase in your dua, increase in your adhkar, increase in your sadaqah, and increase in your dua, and do not let go of your prayers. And you will see an opening from Allah that will come. It will come from Allah. But if you lose hope and you start going to sorcerers and doing these things, going to imposters, you're just wasting your money. Or if it's not a fraudster, you're actually going to someone that's actually doing it, then you yourself are under the threat and punishment of Allah for going to a sorcerer, and that person is already under the threat for being a witchcraft, a sorcerer. So this is something that we as a community have to become aware of and empower ourselves with authentic, orthodox practices of how to keep our families safe and our marriages safe and protect ourselves from ayn and hasid and witchcraft.
Thank you so much. And guys, I'll just add a few things on here. I just want to add, like you said, for the viewers, please do not go to these places. Some people don't take money, but they ask for your clothes and they take the name of your parents and stuff like this. And I'll tell you, I've been a prey of that for many years, wearing taweez and stuff till we moved to US and found that this was all so wrong. And we seek Allah's forgiveness because at that point we didn't know anything better. Just your final message to the audience, and we'll wrap up on that.
Sorry. What was that? You froze there. Sorry. The final, what did you say?
Oh, okay. I said just your final message, and then we'll just wrap up on that.
Okay, sure. The final message would just be, look, for obviously our main theme for today was relationships, and but we also wanted to talk about the cultural practices in Pakistan. I want everyone to know,
Yes.
especially for the viewers that are actually in Pakistan, because this is geared towards the youth of Pakistan, is look, at the end of the day, empower yourself with knowledge, with authentic knowledge, because with authentic knowledge will come barakah, and you'll empower yourself to be able to look at situations differently. So empower yourself with authentic knowledge. Do not shy away from your religion, even if you become sick and tired of religion because of the actions of others in your country, and you feel like everyone's doing fraud, it's corruption. Don't, they are gems and diamonds. I know of people that are, honestly, they're diamonds sitting in Pakistan. They are so humble and they have so much knowledge, authentic knowledge, and they're, mashallah, if you sit with people like these, not only will it inspire you, it will empower you to become better individuals. So stick to your faith. Don't
Yeah.
get wrapped up by the Hollywood Bollywood culture. It's 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 a deception. Don't fall into it
Okay.
thinking like that everyone else is having fun out there and that we in Pakistan, we're behind the times. The reality is that you have a lot of beauty and a lot of amazing talent and things in Pakistan. And you should just look at making sure that you can educate yourselves in the best way through the authentic sources. And when it comes to relationships, you have to start to learn to open up with your families in a loving, mature, amicable way, where you sit down and you learn to communicate, not fight, no criticism. Don't show contempt to your family members when you're discussing an issue. Do not show contempt. Do not show criticism. Do not be critical, and do not degrade and say that you are this. You listen with an open heart, and absolutely be authentic and understanding that we are all human. We all have our feelings and our emotions. And when you have people in a relationship who are struggling, and if they come to you as family, as fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters, and they're saying, I'm having a problem with my wife, or I'm having a problem with my husband, or I'm having issues raising my children because of these reasons, whatever they are, then do not ostracize them. Do not cut them off and say, Hamosh, go back and just soak it up. Do you understand? Like,
Right.
just, this is your responsibility, because that's not the way it works. We need to be a lot more compassionate and empathetic with each other. And we need to be able to start to, as a family, read and study more about relationships, so that you gain more understanding about what a healthy dynamic is. And do not fall into cultural practices that are not from our faith, that are not from Islam. Islam will set you free, but you need to start to be able to filter out and decipher the middle path, not an extreme of any, or the middle path. And with the amount of access that we have to social media, internet, with the plethora of knowledge and information out there, find people that you trust and who have got a strong track record, and learn from them, read from them, and inshallah, this should help you as a family. And people like myself and others are all over the world now. I mean, there's a plethora of relationship specialists, coaches, wellness coaches, therapists. Reach out, ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help, and never ever feel that you're going to be made mockery, that someone's going to be judgmental. People like myself aren't here to be judgmental. We're here to help. And inshallah, if anyone wants any information, from myself, just you can jump onto my Instagram page, which I'm sure, inshallah, you'll put under your link, sister.
Yes, I will.
And
Yes.
my
Yes.
website, which is just my first name and my surname, QasimRafiq.com. And Instagram is just Qasim Rafiq Scottish. So you can jump on, you can follow me. I put up a lot of free, valuable content on a daily basis. And I do try my best to answer as many questions as I can. But Khair, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, sister. One
Thank
of
you
the
so
reasons
much.
one of the reasons I did this interview was because I have family, I have friends, I have folks that I know because of my background, my grandparents and my parents being from Pakistan. So for me, it's a wonderful opportunity to say salam and to touch base with the youth of Pakistan. Jazakallah khair. Now end on the prophetic dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاك الله خيرا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time,
السلام.
and we've learned so much.
Thank you so much. جزاك الله خير.